Guys, welcome to the American Tribune Live. I am Todd Pearson. As always, we are live, folks. As you're joining the show, you have some ideas, drop your comments. I love to feature the comments here on our stage. Let me just get the studio set up here, and I thank you for joining me today. I got to admit, folks, I'm going to keep it calm today. I think we're going to keep it a little bit shorter here, but I just have to get this message out here. I have seen many people online share similar ideas. I've had many conversations among my neighbors here this week, walking the in-laws' dog as we're dog sitting this week here. People are on board here. And I have not addressed the Charlie Kirk assassination much on my own channel. So much has been said about Kirk. He was an absolute giant. Those were Donald Trump's words. I would agree with that entirely here. I am not the same. I didn't know what to say immediately following his assassination, but I can share it has been 2 weeks, and I am still affected by it. Something just isn't sitting right here anymore. I am still grieving for the country's loss, certainly grieving for his family's loss, but that one just hits differently. Charlie Kirk was all of us. He was the best version of all of us, and that was supposed to be the platform, debate on college campuses, and they murdered him for it. And like I said, I am still processing what happened, but it has led me to the conclusion that Trump must respond with absolute force to end Democrat terrorism once and for all. This cannot be the normal. This cannot be something we just expect to happen and wait to happen again, because it will. It will happen again. Democrats, their radical activists, the violent lunatics that they've unleashed on the streets here, be that a lone shooter terrorist, I very much doubt that Tyler Robinson acted alone. But whether you have the one-offs in that situation, or you have the day-to-day basis of criminal thugs just marauding in our streets here, yet if you send Antifa storming Portland buildings, whether it's these people, these lunatics that are now shooting up ICE facilities. And I didn't have time in the show today to play all the clips here, but you have montages online right now of every major Democrat politician, and by every, I mean every politician, calling ICE Trump's Gestapo, demanding that their ICE gets ripped off, saying that they're stealing innocent families from one another and sending them back home, even American citizens. Like, the narratives against ICE alone prompted the show today. But that is, again, just one facet of the terrorism Democrats have unleashed on this country. And Trump has a choice. We are at a pivotal moment in history here. Are we going to stand up and say we're not dealing with this anymore? This is not how you function in a society. Or are the Democrats and their terrorists going to continue doing this and escalating to the point that we would hit a hot civil war? Because it's happening, folks. If this continues here, an interesting question to ponder. What would be worse is if the left felt like the Trump administration was going to do nothing about their terrorism, or if the right felt like Trump was going to do nothing about the domestic terrorism. What would be a worse outcome? I don't want any violence. I am a law and order guy. I want this to be stopped. I want to walk down the street. I want all Americans to walk down the street. I want them to give speeches. I want them to engage in debate. I want them to have their differences. And I am on record saying Democrats are pure evil. Every Democrat voter out there supports evil when they pull D's in the ballot box, but they are free to have that opinion. I just want my side to win. I want my side to rule, and I want them to lord over these brainwashed, low information, low IQ voters out there. But I don't want to murder them. The other side can't say that. They want me dead. When they celebrated Charlie Kirk's assassination, I think this is really what gets closer to the point. Charlie Kirk's assassination, again, 2 weeks ago, I haven't talked about it much here. I'm still processing it. But I think one of the things that lingers with me is the fact that people celebrated his death, and it made me realize they would celebrate my death. They would celebrate your death. They won't be happy until we're all dead. And I don't think that's hyperbolic. They view you and me, my audience here, all Trump voters in America, the same exact way they view Charlie Kirk. They'd use all the same words, racist, fascist, the list goes on and on here. They don't see you. They don't see us as a human being anymore, and they want us all dead. They want us 6 feet under the ground. They want us out of the way so they can implement their utopian ideals for the future, which would be god-awful and horrendous here, but they're too stupid to realize that and too brainwashed to accept that that would be the case. But that's one of the things in the back of my mind now in the wake of his assassination. They would feel the exact same way about us. I shared on our podcast last week, the Freedom from the Press podcast I do with my business partner. I have family members. I've had family members approach me, send me a text message because they're too cowardly to say it to my face. But they said, I don't want to talk politics anymore because I can't separate the way I feel about Donald Trump and your support of him. Now, no problem dropping those grenades in the text saying, I'm going to get my political viewpoints out right now. I think you're a scumbag and a horrible human being for voting for Donald Trump. but let's not talk politics. I guarantee the family member that sent me that text would grieve for a little bit. She'd be like, I feel bad for his kids. Yeah, Todd was an amazing husband and father, and his kids are now without him. But you know what? He voted for Donald Trump, so it's not that big of a loss anyways. I guarantee that would be the thought process here of my family member, and extrapolate that out at large here. I think that's, for me, the biggest takeaway 2 weeks after Kirk's assassination, is that you realize they want us all dead. They wouldn't even miss us, and in fact, they would celebrate that. So I think that's my biggest takeaway. Again, it's a lot to process here. I have not fully come to grips with what happened. It still seems surreal that they assassinated him, but it's not a surprise. It's not a surprise at all that that happened, unfortunately, because that's the environment, the political environment that Democrats have created. Democrats own the political violence in this country. I am not debating that issue. Democrats have created the environment we find ourselves in because they're the ones that, for, I'll just use the last 10 years, but you could stretch this back decades. You could go back to Weather Underground in the 70s with the terrorism that Angela Davis, she was a professor. She's featured at UC Berkeley. She was involved in getting people murdered, purchasing guns, insisting in fire bombings, and they rewarded her for that. So this goes back decades, the political violence on the left does. But if we just snapshot and zoom in the last 10 years, ever since Trump came down the escalator, fascist, Hitler, threat to democracy, Joe Biden on multiple occasions called us domestic terrorists. You had Jasmine Crockett out there. This was after the Aurora, Colorado apartment buildings were taken over by Tren de Aguas, and they said, no, that's not happening. And in fact, even if it is, white supremacists are still the biggest domestic terror threat in America, not violent, illegal gang members. So this has been going on for a long time. The language is intentional. It is meant to dehumanize. And again, I don't like the Nazi comparisons here, but for all the Hitler talk, for all the fascist talk, do you want to talk about comparisons? There are no comparisons greater than what the Democrat Party is doing and than what the big mustache guy did almost 100 years ago with the dehumanization, with the lies, the outright lies, with the, you talk about even Google. We just find out with Jim Jordan's strongly worded letter, nothing's going to happen there. But turns out Biden, we know that they colluded with Facebook and Twitter to suppress your speech during COVID. YouTube did the same thing. They were told by Biden to take down videos, demonetize videos here. You want to talk fascism? Let's talk fascism. I have got MAGA American in the chat today. I'm on Rumble and X. I'm going to read your comment, MAGA. MAGA says, hang that fucking traitor Barack Obama, make an example of someone and all the violence will stop. MAGA, thanks for watching. Thank you for commenting. Again, I think we need to see that. If I'm going on the laws on the books, the laws for traitors, you can see what the penalties are for that here. There needs to be accountability, and it comes on two sides. Going after the corrupt politicians that are enabling and encouraging and inciting this violence, and then also going after the perpetrators of said violence. It is a two-pronged system here. Hey, we got Mr. Scott Awesome. Howdy, fellow feds. Yes, inciting violence in here. Make no mistake, the feds would love to entrap us as we're having this conversation here. But something needs to be done about this. And I posited the question earlier. I think it's a worthwhile question to consider. What would be worse for this country? Any political violence is bad. We can't continue this forever with the specter of violence looming over our heads. Well, I'm going to speak out today. I'm going to go give this speech on college campuses. I'm going to go give this rally here. I wonder if someone's going to attack me for it. Steven Crowder was making a great point. I saw him debating some former Republican. I think it was on Piers Morgan. And Steven Crowder made the point, like, I've had attacks on my life. I've had threats on my life. I see a guy wind up with a McDonald's cup, and he's like, I don't know if that's a chocolate milkshake. I don't know if that's acid. I don't know if that's concrete inside there. But every time these conservative voices go out in public and speak, they don't know if that's the last time they're going to speak. And for Charlie Kirk, it was the last time, and we can't continue this anymore. And again, Democrats own all of the violence in politics in America right now. And again, not up for debate on that. So MAGA American mentions the fact that we need to go after Barack Obama. Yes, we need to go after the politicians that incite violence. I don't have any video clips today. I was going to keep the show a little shorter here. But Gavin Newsom's continued to rail against ICE now for months. Hillary Clinton just came out yesterday and talked about how white Christian men are a threat to this nation. She's openly calling for violence against white Christian men that merely demand America get back to some sense of normalcy where we weren't murdering everybody with a different point of view. So Hillary Clinton, she can join them. Barack Obama started all of this in 2008. It had been building up for some time. Again, you talk about violence, domestic terrorists in the 1970s. With, by the way, Obama's buddy Bill Ayer is connected to Weather Underground as well. Whatever happened to him for being involved in a domestic terrorist organization? Well, it turns out he gets to work in the Obama administration. But yes, you need to go after the people that have fomented this climate right now. Everybody speaking out. And I think I've got some tweets from AOC, from Jayapal, Ilhan Omar, all of them. I don't even have to say their names. I don't have to say what they did. You know what they did. You know how they feel. They need to be arrested for that. This is where we are at. Are we going to allow our Democrat politicians and the media shills to foment more violence, foment more hate towards traditional heritage, Trump supporting Americans, America First Americans, someone that is in disagreement politically? Are we going to allow our politicians and our media class to demonize them, to dehumanize them? Or are we going to say enough is enough? This can't go on. This rhetoric can't go on anymore. Donald Trump, for all he's divisive here, what has Donald Trump ever said that comes close to what you've heard in just the last 2 weeks since Kirk was assassinated? Everyone's out there saying, no, this is horrible. There's no place for political violence. But Charlie Kirk was a racist, and he was a xenophobe, and he was all these other words that they love to throw around. He was a fascist. So they're basically condoning his murder. And by basically, I mean they are condoning his murder. Charlie Kirk was a bad man, so he deserved to die. That's what the political class and the media class is telling you. This can't be allowed to stand anymore. If we're going to allow Democrat politicians to say all of this, then there will be more violence. They have blood on their hands, and it needs to stop. They need to be held accountable here. Donald Trump needs to come out and say, I will not condone this anymore. And if you're going to say things like this, then I will arrest you when the next event happens, because you will be charged as an accomplice in that crime. Now, on the other side of that, Donald Trump needs to just get his act together and deputize pretty much everybody to say, if you're going to storm an ICE facility, you're going to go out there and protest. You're going to be like we saw on the HBCU, Tennessee State, I think it was, where two MAGA supporters, two white guys go on a college campus, set up a table, say, we'd love to debate. They think DEI is a stupid thing. Come debate that with us, black college kids. And instead of having a debate, they get chased off campus here, threats against their life. They have to run away because all the horde of the 23% of them that graduate eventually, most of those kids will not be graduating their college, as it turns out. We're attacking them and harassing them and threatening them, so they had to leave. That is not tolerable. Donald Trump needs to say, I'm now going to arrest all of you, get you kicked out of college, and arrest you for threatening these people for no other reason than you disagree politically. This is political terrorism. So I need to see Donald Trump arrest people. I need to see everybody get arrested. That's where I'm at this point, folks. Responding with force to end domestic terrorism requires a couple of things. Number one, I want to be fair. Donald Trump's going to come out and say, this cannot stand anymore. This is not how society is going to operate while I am in charge here. This is your warning. Everybody gets one warning. You are no longer allowed to intimidate, harass, threaten, obviously not use violence here. You're allowed to protest. You're allowed to assemble. But that assembly is going to be in a cordoned off area, and you can chant your stupid slogans. And if you cross over the barriers here that we set up for you, you will be arrested on the spot. I saw in the video clip of those people fleeing the black college, their car as they're driving away is getting slammed against, and there's cops right there. And the cops are like, they're pushing them away and saying, get off the car here. And then nothing else happens to the kids. What lesson are these people learning? What lesson are these black kids learning on the campus? What lesson does Antifa learn when they're allowed to storm buildings, throw things at buildings here? The lesson is I can keep getting away with this. What's the lesson when we know nothing about Charlie Kirk's assassination 2 weeks after the fact? Where are we on that? Kash Patel, have you arrested anybody in the Discord server? Have you investigated anybody else? I have not listened to a lot of Candace Owens, but she's done some deep dives on who owned the house where the gun was dumped off, why the gun was reassembled, all the bullets. Where's the bullet from this 30-06 that's supposed to blow somebody to hell? So many questions, and they repaved the Utah campus already where Kirk was. And there's rumors, of course, of a trapdoor. I don't know much about that. These are the whispers I'm hearing. Conspiracy theories are going to go wild because we don't have any real information. But what is Kash Patel? What is the FBI? What is the Trump administration doing to learn about what happened and then hold everybody accountable for that? All we know right now is that we have Tyler Robinson in custody, and that's it. We don't know anything else about the Kirk assassination to this day. Well, apologies for that, folk. We are having a little technical difficulty here. And we're back. Uh, that's me messing around with my computer. Sorry about that, folks. We are still back. Bear with us for that here. But what do we know? What do we know about the Kirk assassination? But what is Donald Trump going to do about any of this? Like I said, offer up a warning. Just say, this is it. You get a blank slate. I want everyone arrested right now, but just so we have full transparency here, everybody gets a warning. You get one warning right now. Today's the day. If you do anything moving forward, politicians, this is your warning. No more demonizing the other half of the country. Agitators on the ground, this is your warning. No more intimidating, harassing, threatening people that you disagree with. If you do those things, political class, media class, looking right at you, Jimmy Kimmel, or agitators, thugs on the ground, you will be arrested. And I want these people thrown away in prison forever. I want them gone forever. Because one thing we know about the left here, after what we experienced in the pandemic when they wanted all the unvaxxed dead, after what we saw with the George Floyd riot, when we saw there was no reasoning with these human beings, George Floyd killed himself, and then certainly after what we saw with the Kirk assassination, where they outright celebrated his murder in front of his wife, in front of his kids, in front of the entire country, for simply having a different opinion. By the way, and I think that's partly what threatens these people, they have a religious worldview that is hanging on by a thread. Everything they believe is a lie. Deep down, they know it's a lie, so they are threatened just by the exposure to different ideas here. But they celebrated his murder. There is no coming back to these people. I actually thought during the pandemic, I was like, well, this is really absurd, but the silver lining will be that people no longer trust the experts. They no longer trust the government, because we can all see through the lies pretty easily. We know that the virus was created in a lab. It's pretty obscene to suggest that it just leapt over in a wet market there with some guy eating some battle in or whatever they called it there. And then no, 6 feet. They just made up 6 feet. Can you tell us the science behind that? No, they admitted that they made it up. Let's see the injection. Kamala Harris, Governor Cuomo at the time. I'm not going to take the Trump vaccine. That thing sounds awful. And then what do you know? As soon as Biden's in office, you're going to take the damn vaccine, or I want you to die. But with all the lies in COVID, I thought at least people will wake up. They're going to see that they're getting lied to. And no, the opposite happened there. They doubled down on their insanity, and they accused me of being a conspiracy theorist for simply asking questions and knowing the truth. And then now that we see Charlie Kirk's assassination play out and we see how they react, I think you have to finally understand they hate you. They've wanted you to die for a long time, and now they absolutely just want you dead and out of the way. They will not mourn your loss. In fact, they'll celebrate your loss. And that's where we're at here. And so if I'm Donald Trump and I'm looking at this, and I think J.D. Vance gets it. I think Trump just being older, yeah, and they tried to kill him, but what has he reacted to in 8 months in office here? We're allowing this to play out still. He's watched his friend die, and I still don't see a response from Donald Trump. I don't know if being a boomer is part of it. I think J.D. Vance is a little more plugged in. Stephen Miller certainly gets it. But we can't mess around anymore. These people have shown their hand. They have said, I don't care about you. I don't view you as a human being. I'd be fine if you're dead. So I'm going to go protest and intimidate and harass and threaten and commit acts of violence here. These people, when they do it, need to be gone forever. I would ask my Democrat family members and friends who are listening to this, and they say, gosh, Todd, that sounds rather harsh. What do these people offer to society at this point? How are they making your life better? How are they making my life better? How are they making this country better, your communities better? The answer is they're not. And are they allowed a certain freedom in the society to be stupid and believe in stupid things and go out and do stupid things? Yeah, until they harm people and intimidate people. And as soon as they encroach upon my freedoms to not have to wonder every day, is something going to happen to me and my family, or wonder, will something else happen to another conservative speaker out there, simply trying to wake people up from their brainwashed stupor. So no, you don't have those freedoms to do that anymore. And because I don't think these people are redeemable, I don't need them back in society. Can they be rehabilitated? Maybe. It seems unlikely. We could lead them towards God. That would be a start. But can you wake people up from brainwash after 5 decades? I don't know. I honestly don't know anymore. And I'm inclined to think that most cannot. So when I see a lunatic on the street screaming, shouting, threatening violence, committing acts of violence here, they believe every single narrative from the regime, I am of the mindset that they can't be saved and they can't be redeemed anymore. You celebrating Charlie Kirk's murder pretty much tells me there's no coming back from that. Now, 1 or 2 might, but I'm not going to make a rule for the exception. I want them all gone. I want Donald Trump to round these people up when they do their things, and I want them removed from society forever. One of the things you hear the left say often is that we have an over-incarceration problem. We have too many people in prison. That is exactly wrong, because of course it is. Everything a leftist says is entirely upside down. We don't have nearly enough people in prison. I want everybody that incites political violence moving forward and engages in political violence moving forward locked away forever. Now, I am open to an island in the Pacific as well. If they don't want to be in a cage, they can have an option. We will remote you in to some random island in the Pacific here. It's got some coconut trees. We'll parachute you in. Here's a backpack. You got a couple weeks of supplies, and then good luck. And then simply good luck. All I know is you're not coming back here. I'll send them to El Salvador. That seems like a perfect solution here. But deterrence, I think deterrence alone and the knowledge that there will be consequences, it would stave off some political violence. It won't stop all of it. There will always be bad actors, bad apples in society, people that just do not care. They're psychopaths. And so when they do something, they need to be removed forever. I don't want to see any more video clips of an ICE facility, of a federal courthouse, of a college campus. I don't want to see any more videos of people swarming, committing violence, writing their stupid slogans with graffiti. If we are going to move forward as a country, it only happens when violence from the left is stopped cold. That is it. Now, if they want to engage in that violence and they don't want to accept immediate arrest, I am fine with police escalating as well. You're not going to go lightly, then you will go down in a body bag. That's where I'm at this point. These people cannot be reasoned with. They are feral animals. They are brainwashed beyond repair, and so they can be treated as such. I don't want to share a community. I don't want to share a country with people like that anymore. And that's where I'm at, folks. That is absolutely where I'm at here. But Trump has to respond with force to end the Democrat-enabled, Democrat-inspired, and indeed Democrat-fomented terrorism. Something must be done about this. And I don't know how many different ways to say it, other than the fact that it has to happen. If Donald Trump doesn't act, if he doesn't swiftly and forcefully end the threat of Democrat terrorism, then it will continue, and it will continue to get worse. And I am on record saying I don't want any terrorism in this country. How about that? Is it controversial to say I don't want political violence? And it doesn't do any good for me to condone political violence on the right, because the examples of that are so small and rare. And if we eliminated them entirely, we would still have a massive domestic terrorist political violence problem in America, because the left is still engaging in most of it. So Donald Trump doesn't need to condemn both sides. Ted Cruz did that yesterday here. Ted Cruz did his stupid platitudes. I condemn political violence. Yeah, we all condemn political violence, Ted. Get on board. It's not coming from our side. It is entirely coming from the left. And again, I'll posit this as well. If Donald Trump did come out and condemn political violence tomorrow and say, I condemn political violence, it needs to stop on both sides, nothing changes. And nothing changes because the right, let's say people listen to the message too. I think that's the other part of the hypothetical here. Let's say people listen to Donald Trump. Okay, Donald Trump, you said end political violence. We'll stop it. So his side listens to that and say, okay, Trump, we're laying down our guns. The left isn't going to stop. They hate Donald Trump. They're not going to listen to Donald Trump. Donald Trump can't be the one that ends it just with words. Does it stop? Maybe, if Hillary Clinton, Barack Obama, and all the Dem leaders come out and say, guys, you have to stop it. I think it does. I think it does to some extent. And now the problem is too many people have been brainwashed for too long. They are loose cannons at this point. So no, that's not going to stop it either, but it would be a start. At least an acknowledgement from the Democrat Party would be a good place to start if we're going to come together. I have thoughts on coming together in general. I don't think we can come together. And frankly, I don't want to come together at this point with the communists. There is nothing good that comes from compromising with people that hate you and want you dead. I don't need to find common ground or unity or partisan achievements with communists and Democrats. These people have horrible ideas. Why would I compromise with them? They can come to our side. They can wake up and say, political violence is wrong, and only that side's doing political violence. So I'll come over here in the America First tent, where it's big enough for everybody, by the way. I'd love everybody to be in the America First tent. And I'm going to come to this side now and say, it's bad over there, guys. You guys need to stop it. But that's not going to stop it. No matter who says it, no matter what way they say it, it's not going to stop. The only thing that these feral thugs respond to is force. That is it. It is the law of the jungle out there. They respond to power and might. Right now, Donald Trump has might on his side. He has justice on his side. It's the right kind of power, I'm going to argue as well. People are like, well, if Trump weaponizes the government, that just sets a precedent for the left to weaponize the government. It's just like, where have you been? Where have you been? Democrats have been weaponizing the government this entire time. They don't need a precedent, number one. They tried to murder Trump. They tried to throw him in jail for the rest of his life. They tried to sue him to oblivion here. They locked up how many Trump supporters their entire lives? They don't need a precedent. They don't need to, oh, well, Donald Trump did that, so we have an excuse now to do it. They're going to do it anyways, folks. Wake up. So, and Donald Trump, simply out of principle, could react the same way Dems did. He simply could have said, I'm playing by your rules, and I'm totally fine with that. But now he has the further justification to say, like, this is insane. People are getting murdered out there. People are getting hurt out there. And it cannot stand anymore here. So, yes, I want full force. And again, I'll back up my comments here. I'm going to wrap up the show in just a little bit here. I had to rant for a little bit this morning, folks. No video clips today, going a little shorter here. I do appreciate that we had MAGA American in the chat today. We had Mr. Scott Awesome in the chat today. Yes, hello, feds. I assume the feds are always watching at this point. I am not calling for violence, by the way. I don't know who needs to hear this. The right doesn't want violence. I want it to stop. I don't want any Charlie Kirks to get murdered. Hell, I don't even want any leftists to get murdered here. Is that controversial to say in 2025? Apparently it is. My position is really simple here. I don't want political violence. And for that, I'm a conspirator. For that, I'm a Trump supporter. I'm a domestic terrorist here. No, how about I just don't want political violence? But now that puts me in a certain political camp because the other side loves political violence and they want political violence. Even your brainwashed NPC normie friends out there, they are actually okay with violence. I remember we had people over at our house on July 13th of last summer, the day Trump was assassinated. So I was like, honey, I got to go work for a little bit. We got to do some stories about this. But I came back upstairs and they didn't know what was going on. They were just hanging out. And I said, this just happened. And my wife's friend, I kid you not, she looked right at me and my wife and said, I would have been okay with it. Look, what? What? As much as I despise Joe Biden, I'm not rooting for that. I don't want that. Number one, human being, no matter how awful, let them find justice in a different way. And by justice, I mean Trump could arrest them. And then if they end up in prison or the gallows, that's justice playing out. They'll meet their maker in the afterlife. That's certainly another factor here. But the larger problem with political violence is, do you see a problem when you assassinate a president? Do you see a problem when you continue to assassinate political voices here? That's not good for the country, folks. That's simply not good. And those of us on the right are not ignorant enough to miss that point. It is more than just one person getting assassinated. It is an entire institution and country crumbling under the uncertainty of what comes next. It's never the answer. And by the way, just from a pragmatic perspective, let's say someone had gone after Biden, or let's say Donald Trump had been taken down that day. There is more than just one person. At this point, the Trump movement is larger than Donald Trump, but certainly on the Democrat side here, my point has always been Democrats are interchangeable. Whether it's a Biden or a Harris or a Newsom or an Obama or a Clinton or a Crockett or an AOC, and you could run down the list forever with any politician with a D behind their name, they're all the same. These people are automatons. They are robots. They are the Borg. They're all programmed to believe the exact same stuff. They're all programmed to say the exact same stuff. It does not matter. So from a pragmatic point of view, unless you're willing to do that to all of them, it just doesn't matter here, which is why we have to win over the minds of just enough voters. As long as we have everybody voting, which is also a terrible idea, but as long as that is our system here, we just have to change enough minds so they stop voting for these machines. No, you're not smart because you're listening to what the candidate has to say. In 2020, well, you got some governor races here in New Jersey, and we did it again. We are having all sorts of technical difficulties today. Apparently, I cannot record whatsoever, lest we lose the feed for a little bit again. That's the last time. I'm hands free, hands up here. The rest of it does not matter. So Democrats are all the same, but we've got races this year, and people are like, well, I might vote for Spanberger in Virginia, or I might vote for this moron in New Jersey here because I'm listening to their platform. It's like, no, they're a Democrat. They hate you. Doesn't matter what Democrat you vote for. They're all the same. 2026 midterms, Americans will have a decision. Mr. Scott, Rumble is rumbling again. This is entirely user error here. Whoever is the producer of the show, by the way, and I think I'm looking right at him right now, that is me. That was entirely user error here. Rumble is not rumbling. I actually quit the Rumble studio. I don't know how long you've been watching the show, Mr. Scott. I used to stream live out of Rumble Studio, but I couldn't even play videos there. So I'm back to my third-party platform here, and then I stream through it over to Rumble. Okay. Let me wrap up the show, folks. We did a half an hour. That's kind of all I was planning to do today. I do appreciate you guys watching, appreciate you guys commenting here. Let me, for the last time, respond with this. Donald Trump has a choice right now. Are we going to let domestic terrorists from the left, all from the left, dictate how we live our lives? Apparently, Jimmy Kimmel's show, there are rumors that his show is back on the air because radical terrorists threatened to do something to ABC Studios if they didn't put him back on. So play this scenario out. Jimmy Kimmel makes fun of Charlie Kirk for getting assassinated, so political violence is acceptable on the left to end a threat, and then political violence, the threat of political violence is enough to put leftists back on TV. This all has to stop. Any hint of terrorism, any hint of a violent threat needs to be dealt with swiftly and strongly. No more strongly worded letters from your Republican politicians. No more both sides. This is bad. Political violence we can't accept. I'm tired of all of that as well. I need my president, I need the America First movement to take a stand. Do we let the left control the streets? Do we let the left have their way when it comes to intimidation and threats and harassment and violence? Or will Donald Trump and his administration crack down on all that? They're willing to send the National Guard into D.C. Where are the political stones? Where's the political backbone to do the same for the country at large? If it's bad in D.C. and we need to end violence over there, then it's bad across the country. If you can watch Charlie Kirk get assassinated and your takeaway is like, it's a one-off, I guess that's the risk we have living in this country, then you're on the wrong side and you need to wake up here. Donald Trump must mass arrest all of these people. Mass arrest, mass incarcerate, no more political violence. That is it. That is it. I don't know why that's controversial, folks. Why is that controversial? I don't want political violence. And I'm the conspiracy theorist now. I'm the far righter now. I don't want political violence here. I need an administration to take the law and order stand. If a politician says anything, or if an agitator in the street does something, that is enough to lock them up. And the American people stand by the president if he goes down that path. And I am oblivious. I do not care what the leftists would shriek. Oh, he's taking away rights. They were just protesting. They were just assembling. It's a politician's right to give free. Nope. Free speech does not mean you dehumanize half this country. Free speech does not mean you incite violence. Freedom to protest and assemble does not mean you get to storm federal buildings anymore for a political cause. If you want to protest, you get permission and you get your little cordoned off area. You want freedom of speech? Then you got to start telling the truth. You blatantly lying every single day to dehumanize and denigrate your political opponents has to stop because it inevitably leads to political violence. All right, folks, with that being said here, 33 minutes in, we were able to fill the entire time with MAGA, with Mr. Scott in the chat here. Folks, let me know your thoughts. Let me know if you agree. Let me know what you want to see Donald Trump do here. I am making my position very plain. Mass arrest, mass incarceration. Let's get this country back on track. Until then, I am back tomorrow, folks. Tomorrow is Friday. That means Freedom from the Press with my business partner, Jason Robertson. You can catch that on our main Rumble channel. You can catch that on our Facebook page. I did not feel comfortable sharing this message on Facebook today, so I usually don't stream on Facebook. But I'm back tomorrow at 10 a.m. Central, 11 a.m. Eastern with Jason Robertson at JRob from Minnesota. Other than that, thank you for tuning in. I will be back with my own show next Tuesday. And a little spoiler right now, we have a special guest lined up for next Thursday. Have been working with him a little bit on the side. He was working at the American Tribune, still writes for the American Tribune. We'll save a little more information. That'll be my blanket teaser right there. But I'm excited for next Thursday's conversation. You'll have to stay tuned next week to see who it is. Other than that, have a great day. Thanks for tuning in. We'll catch you tomorrow.